Welcome back to the Beyond Face Value podcast, the podcast where we uncover the stories behind successful entrepreneurs and businesses. I'm your host, Hannah Swan, and each week we dive into the real journey to success. So let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Face Value podcast. And on today's episode, I have the lovely Lauren McDonald, who is the owner of Lynott Jewellery. Hello, Lauren.
Hello. Hi. I'm so excited.
Good. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Problem. Your first podcast.
I'm a bit nervous, but
we'll get through it.
Yeah, we'll get through it.
So, why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start Lynott Jewellery?
Sure. So, it was 2021 and I was working for EY, which is a financial services company. I just got into a grad program for management consultancy. I think I just spotted a gap in the market for a brand that kind of resonated with its customers, that had like a sense of a community and that fun element behind it, that you weren't just buying a product, you were buying into like a brand. And from the start, I suppose it was just a good mix of circumstances. It was COVID, everyone was at home, they're on their phones, we were living in a social media bubble. And I suppose that did kind of help things kind of evolve more quickly. But yeah, I suppose that's how it all started. I spotted that gap in the market. Yeah. I come from a business background, a family that were in retail for years. I kind of grew up like on the shop floor of my parents' retail business. So yeah, it was kind of always something that was in the back of my mind of, it was always like, you can do your own thing. So I suppose it was like a natural progression for me to kind of go that way. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely saw that there was a market there for jewellery that didn't tarnish, was green proof, water resistant, but was super affordable as well. And then again, that's evolved into like services and all the other stuff we now offer. So yeah, I think it was just really a right time, right place kind of good moment for, and it was totally circumstantial.
Yeah, absolutely. And you briefly just touched on there that you came from kind of a family business kind of background. How has that inspired your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think like everyone is really shaped by their family and their set of circumstances. And like anyone, I suppose that kind of molded me into who I am today. But I think the biggest takeaway was work ethic. Like from a young age, we knew the value of money. You knew the value of work and commitment. And I remember being 4 and 5 and being in the shops or being in the office or doing deliveries, and it wasn't child labour, but I was always around it. And then like from like 12 or 13, all I wanted to do was be on the till, and I just loved it. And we were always heavily involved in that side of the business. And then you're at home and everyone's just, that's all we're talking about. We were talking about retail and work, which is amazing, and it stood to me, and I've learned so much even just through osmosis of being at home and soaking it all in. So yeah, I think that really shaped who I am. But I think the biggest takeaway from that from my parents is to work really, really hard. And I think that's just a core value that I have now that's just kind of how it happened.
Yeah, it's great to be around something like that, because then kind of what the hard work what the outcome is of it, when you put in all of that hard work.
And like, my parents worked like 90-hour weeks, they were really hard workers. And it wasn't this, I had no illusions of it being glamorous. Like I knew the level of work that you had to put in to make something a success. So I suppose that helped as well, because I'd seen it.
Yeah, you'd seen it with your own eyes. And what lessons did you take from your family business and applied them to Lynott Jewellery? Have you applied any of them, or is it just kind of that hard work?
Hard work. I think the most important thing that I learned was to not kind of overexpose yourself. So to like start off modestly and try to do things on a budget and then prove them and then move forward with that. But always that revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, or the other way around. But really focus on your bottom line and make sure things make sense financially, and then back it and go from there. But I definitely think that my parents instilled from like a young age of not you know, you can get really distracted doing all these flashy things and, you know, customer events and these branding pieces, which are integral and they're really important. But what's more important is that you're profitable, you're making money. And that was kind of...
That's the be all and end all,
exactly,
isn't it? Really?
Yeah. That's the nature of business, really.
Yeah, and of course now, obviously, that you've succeeded in doing that, you are able to do all the fun things now.
Exactly. And I suppose what I've learned is to make really smart decisions about the fun things and weigh up, you know, what is the value of what we're doing, and are we just being busy busy for the sake of being busy, or were we being busy with a goal and an objective? And the goal and the objective should always be, you know, at the end of the day, to drive revenue. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And what challenges did you face in launching your jewellery brand, and how did you overcome them?
Oh God, there's so many. We've been through so much as a business in such a short space of time, and like I'm constantly being challenged every week of everything. But it's so good, and you learn so much. I suppose COVID in itself, like suppliers, dealing in a situation where, like, you know, the world was shut down, and I'm trying to source suppliers. I'm trying to deal with the logistics side of Brexit, COVID, delays, you know, in the early days. Then obviously, like, trying your hand at all these different avenues that you've no experience in. So, you know, I'm building a website, I'm running a social media, I'm working with logistics, I'm managing stock and inventory, I'm working with finances that I had no exposure to. So that in itself, of like getting to grips with all of that, was a challenge. Again, what I said of knowing, you know, to walk before you run, in terms of, you know, what you should be spending your money on and what's actually going to add value to your business. We've had loads of challenges along the way, which I'm sure we'll get into. Like, you know, we actually lost our website for a couple of months. There were so many different challenges along the way. You know, that I can think of. But yeah, definitely there's been a few war stories that I can share later on.
Yeah, we can get into it. And how do you stay so ahead of trends in the jewellery industry? Because I know when we had a call, you kind of touched on, you wanted it to be that jewellery brand that everyone went to. It was very trendy. It was very kind of, you know, always on trend with the trends.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's knowing your customer and knowing them really well, and you know what they want and what they need, and then keeping really close to their sphere of, you know, those cultural moments that are coming along, plotting those well in advance, keeping an eye on who their go-to people are, whether it's Molly May or, you know, those it girls, Charlene Murphy, and looking at them and forecasting their styles, obviously looking at the bigger brands and getting inspired by luxury brands and trend you know, actual fashion trends early in the year. Working with designers has been amazing, because they obviously forecast for us, and we can work together really collaboratively on looking at those new trends that are coming through from a design perspective. And then from a social perspective, you just have to have your finger on the pulse, and you just have to be submerged in that world
to go all the time.
Exactly. And be able to turn it around fast, as you know how quickly social media moves. But I think it's just keeping your finger on the pulse and being really submerged in your target customers' world. And I think that's something that I've always tried to ingrain with new team members. It's like, you have to understand our target customer and what she wants and how she speaks, and, you know, aesthetically what she wants to see, and what her Pinterest mood board is, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you share some of the influences that has helped you shape your designs over, you know, the period of owning your own business?
Yeah, so I think for me, the biggest thing is price and cost. So that's a huge influence. Like, we're hyper aware of our target customer being, you know, as low as with TikTok now, kind of 15 to, you know, that 15 to 30. And they're at different life stages there. But price is a huge factor. They're price conscious. So that's a huge element for me. I want to bring out like high quality, durable designs that don't break the bank as well. I want to stay on trend and look at these external trend focuses, but I also want to make sure we can deliver that to our customer at an affordable entry level price point. And I don't want to compromise then on quality either. So, and I suppose as we come along the journey with Lynott of bringing out these engraving and personalisation services as well, it's still maintaining that commitment to cost and price, and making sure that, you know, we're not pricing people out, because that is one of the most important. I think that's what resonates with our customers, an attraction to our brand, so we don't want to lose that.
Yeah, and I feel like it's probably hard to kind of touch on every single one of them things. Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a really fun but challenging part of the design process to sit. Like, we're now fortunate enough that we've a buyer now. So my role is I work really closely with her, and we're at the moment we're a little bit behind because we're such a new business. We're kind of coming to terms with it. Like, we should really now be looking at like Q4 like H2 2026, but we're only looking at H2 2025 now and getting that signed off. But we're looking at things and we're going, okay, we love this, but we are going to price people out here. How do we modify this? How do we change it so that we can get the price down? And we're so committed to that. But also there's certain materials we won't touch. There's certain specs that we'll work towards, and it's, you know, sometimes we have to go to different suppliers to achieve that. So yeah, it's a huge learning game for me, especially because it's something new again this year that I've kind of been exposed to more.
Yeah, and I think it's always a good lesson as well to kind of show people that you never actually know. No one ever really knows what they're doing going into this.
Oh, no one knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I will put my hands up and say, like, know what you're doing. Oh no, like, and you know what? I don't know what I'm doing, but I am so committed to finding out how to do it.
I think that's half the battle, though. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And I think what makes, I suppose, when you have to lead a team, you don't have all the answers, and I'm learning this. Like, I don't have the answers, but I will do my best to get those answers and to work as a team together with that. And I think that's been a huge learning for me. And like, you know, 3 years ago it was me in my bedroom on my own, and now I've nearly 60 people working for me. So you know, that's a challenge in itself of learning, you know, how to lead a team effectively and provide answers when you don't know all the answers.
You don't know all you'll figure out as you go on. What strategies have you found most effective when building Lynott Jewellery?
Strategies, I think, again, the learning to walk before you can run. Not rushing into things because they're glossy and shiny. Huge focus on the bottom line, creating a community and focusing on that customer. Said again, making sure that we're only producing pieces that customers want, and also kind of really staying committed to elevation. Like, every year I feel like we rebrand, we do something different, and we evolve. We don't stay static, and I think that's really, really important. Like, we've huge plans for this year, and kind of I'm calling it a facelift, but it's a rebranding project. But yeah, like, I think it's really important not to stay static and to constantly evolve, and don't feel like, okay, now we're established, like, right, we'll take the foot off the pedal, or we'll focus on something else. And even in my personal kind of life, as you know, I've grown this business. I think year 2 I had this kind of little itch, and I was like, well, this is kind of going okay, I could do something else alongside it. And you know, I kind of quickly realized, I was like, actually no, this exactly thing, this hasn't even reached its, you know, hasn't scratched the surface of its potential. So staying really like laser focused, because I see that with some entrepreneurs that I know, and I hate that word, so I can't believe I just used it, but like, they can get a business to a certain point and then suddenly think, it's a copy and paste formula, and I can just do 3 or 4 of this.
Once they think it can work all the time, like,
exactly. Kind of thing. And I just think it's really important to give these brands the commitment they deserve, especially if you do see longevity and a future in them.
Yeah, you need to nurture them like babies.
Exactly, yeah, they are your baby.
Yeah. What role has social media and digital marketing played in growing your business? I know you depend a lot on, not that you depend on it, but I know you use a lot of UGC and kind of other bits. How has that helped develop Lynott Jewellery?
Yeah, I think from the start, what really played to Lynott's strength was our use of influencers in UGC. Like, I will never forget the first time an influencer I remember who it was. I remember everything about it. Like, I remember where I was sitting when they posted, and the notification on my phone, and kind of in that period of COVID, it was really big at the time. And I think the landscape's really changed now. But when, you know, we started kind of the end of 2021, there was like, there was a reaction. Like, if an influencer posted that, there was a direct correlation to sales, where now that things have slightly shifted. But I remember, you know, that flux of orders and that increase of followers and the buzz that would create for an emerging brand, and it's so exciting. But it's been instrumental. Like, the growth of our socials can be largely contributed to the use of influencers, and we only, up until last year, we'd never done any paid work for an influencer. Wow. So any tags, any posts, any stories that you'd seen up until kind of mid last year, they were not paid. So
I feel like I see Lynott Jewellery everywhere.
Yeah, so that's we amazing, were just lucky that product resonated with these girls, and they were happy to be on a gifted basis. They liked the product, they wore it, and they were happy to share it because they believed in the brand and they believed in the product. So that was a huge source of pride for me, that we hadn't worked with paid. And then the landscape kind of changed, and you know, people moved to paid, which is totally understandable. And this UGC emerged. Like, UGC is about 1.5 years old, really. And that as well is even shifting in the last year. So it's keeping on top of all of this is a huge learning for me. But definitely UGC is instrumental from a digital ads perspective, like, you know, getting people to position your product exactly how you want it, being able to, you know, have a bit of collaboration on the content of being like, you know, we'd like you to really push the USPs, and having a little bit of a say in what is being said about the product has been really good, and able to kind of position certain campaigns, which has been good. So yeah, we've been working on a UGC strategy and an influencer strategy, and obviously that then has progressed into influencer collaborations. So obviously we had our first one last year.
I was literally about to ask. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so that was incredible. Like when people say to me like, why Charlene Murphy? I like, she epitomizes everything it is to be a Lynott customer. She's like, before, it's kind of funny, we always called Lynott customers it girls, but she was then branded as an it girl kind of in parallel. Yeah. So it's funny to see that kind of parallel use of that term. And yeah, she just resonates so strongly with our customer. Our customer is her follower. And we shared that same follower base. So it was kind of an easy decision. Like, it was a no-brainer.
Match made in heaven, like.
Totally. So, you know, we would have started those conversations a year prior, so it was about a year in the making, and we worked together with Icon Management to like secure the deal and then work on the collection together over a course of about 5 months. So we worked really closely with Charlene. We'd have like 2 meetings a week and really work together on producing a collection that she could stand over, that she would wear herself, that would incorporate into her everyday life. And then obviously on that marketing piece, like, we had an incredibly successful launch in Arnott. We'd over 200 customers in a day and 3 live sessions with Charlene going through the product. It was just incredible, and the buzz that it created and the sales were amazing as well. And Charlene has just been so supportive. Like, she's just incredible to work with, and her content is amazing. So yeah, it's been an absolute, like, it's been a whirlwind, but it's been an amazing collaboration, and that's kind of set the standard now for all this year.
Collaborations that go ahead, yeah, of course. And how did you approach building a loyal customer base for Lynott Jewellery, especially, you know, being a new brand? How did you kind of establish that for yourself?
Yeah, like as I kind of touched on earlier, that hard work piece, like, I just remember the early days of Lynott, and it's all a blur, like, but I remember the level of like obsession that I had with growing that follower base. And again, like that, we touched on earlier, like, just really aggressive influencer strategy of like getting the product into those hands at all costs and trying to get them to push the product, because I saw that knock-on effect that I mentioned. So, you know, that landscape for me was really influencer driven, and it was content. It was making the content that people wanted to see, and again, on a budget or no budget at the time. So yeah, it was a commitment to like a really like strong social strategy, posting frequently, posting at the best times, really in touch with the analytics, getting that UG or influencer strategy, getting that into the right hands, and then just engagement, like really engaging with our customers on our socials, and bringing out product and having stuff to talk about. So you're not repeating the same messaging, that we were constantly doing different launches or doing something for Valentine's Day or upgrading our packaging. I remember like my mom always laughs, like, she's like, Valentine's Day there was just like confetti all over the house, because I used to pack all the orders to my bedroom, and like she'd be handwriting cards like to customers, and there was just confetti, but we'd always do something, like there would be confetti and sweets in the order, and touch, like, exactly and people loved that during COVID. So I think
probably hoovering up confetti for weeks.
Yeah, she still talked about it now, and then like I wouldn't let her, she wasn't allowed, she wasn't promoted to like packing the orders, because I was so like specific about how I want. So no, she was only allowed either put the stamps on, she was allowed write the cards, like it was very, everyone had the role.
Yeah, everyone had a role. That's great. And how do you handle the balance between kind of the creativity and like the business operations? Because I know you're kind of touching a lot on, you know, having the foundation of the business, you know, very solid and stuck down. How do you kind of balance, you know, the fun parts and then the really businessy kind of parts?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that is something that, it doesn't come naturally to me. And the more I go on, I really see the value in kind of outsourcing your weak spots and going, okay, I need an accountant because I'm not the strongest in that area, or, you know, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of outsourcing that goes on. And then I'm in the fortunate position now, we're in a position of the business where, you know, we are building an organizational structure, and I have the support of, you know, building a team now. But for me, like that director role is you're over everything. So I can go from like a, and as well I have e-commerce and retail, so I can go from a retail trade meeting in the morning over to a meeting with our accountant, and then I'll like I've recently just like I'll do our Valentine's campaign with our marketing manager really closely. Then I might actually go to email. I'm still really involved in everything. And still I'm the sign off or the approval on absolutely everything, but I work really closely like from all elements. Like this morning I was doing store design for we've 2 new locations this year, but we're also redoing our current stores. So you can go from store design, then you can go to fulfillment and like logistics
to a
podcast. So like there's just so many different areas, but I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and I love getting involved in all of them. And if I don't know the answer, as I said, I'll just find out. So yeah, it is a balancing act for sure. Absolutely. Like it is something that you have to weigh up, but I think it's really important not to prioritize one or the other, because I think the top layer is commerciality, and if you need to have that commercial focus, so I'll only engage in tasks that drive revenue or have a value. There's certain things that it's not worth my time, which I'm learning to be at. So I used to be like, if there's like today, for instance, there's an out-of-home content creation day happening in Lynott, and there's 4 or 5 creators going. And about a year and a half ago, I would have had to be there. I needed to be there, and I need to direct the whole thing. I need to be involved in everything. Where now I'm like, no, Lauren, actually, you can't do that today. Yeah. Like that is not something that, and even now I'm saying to my marketing manager, I'm like, you're not to be there either. You're to brief the girls, you're to set them up for the day, you're to lay out your expectations, you're to check in with them, but they have to do their job too. So like it's learning to
kind of have them boundaries with yourself.
Yeah, and I still am learning. Like the boundaries thing is so hard, because sometimes it's so much easier for like, just give me that, I'll do it.
Just do it.
But you can't do, because you can't do everything.
Like want to be in control.
Yeah. So like it's very hard to not jump in and take something, especially when you're bringing a team, you're developing them, and you're supposed to be leading a team. So you can't lead someone if you're doing their job for them.
Yeah, exactly. And you just briefed on outsourcing people.
Yeah.
How has that been? I'm sure that's been an amazing benefit to you and your business, and kind of that balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was one of the first things I did. So if advice to any listeners who are kind of starting a business or in earlier stages, maybe in year 1 or 2, it's strategically outsource. It's a great way of building a team at a lower cost. So I would always say to everyone that, at whatever stage you are at a business, it's really important to have like a strong accountant behind you and some support in that way, just to make sure that everything is in order. So there's so much stuff that is at our fingertips, but we're not.
And it can make your life so much easier.
Yeah. Like I spend hours, like last night I spent hours doing presentations. Like there's a lot of stuff that I have to kind of present back to our team or external people. And I just realized last night that there is an AI presentation thing that will take what I'm writing and then
make it all like crazy.
In our branding and everything. I was just like, this is crazy. Like I'll be AI.
Like, what have
like in a year's time, they won't need me. I'll just be an AI boss or something. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
And you also touched on about you had lost your website.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, anyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah, it's still a bit of trauma.
Because you obviously started off kind of more so e-commerce and stuff, you didn't start off with shops. So tell me how that happened.
Yeah, I can't even think of the year. It's all just a blur.
You tried to block it out.
Trauma. But so we we had Lynott because we had the ones. So we just had Lynott.
Okay.
We just come out of like our first Christmas in Lynott. So we'd been online.
We were on the ball, like
we were just we're on that kind of growth. We were rolling, and I'll never forget one of the girls in the office rang me and was like, "Can you talk for a minute?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "The website's gone." And I was like, "Sorry." And they're like, "Yeah, the website's gone." And I was like, oh my God. So long story short, there was an issue with the site. Shopify had flagged it. I had missed the email. And the site just basically, they locked the site. But because I hadn't replied to the email, they also locked the domain. So we couldn't take LynottJewellery.com.
You gotta make a new one.
And make a new one. So I went and there's another thing about panic as well. Like, I went around to everyone. I was like, what do I do? Like, do I make a new site? Do I kind of try to get this back? And when you're dealing with like massive companies like Shopify, you can't talk to anyone.
Answers,
it's very.
That's what. Whenever I have problems with my Shopify, it can be hard. Like sometimes I'm like, what do I do?
There's a lot of grey tape, and like you can't talk to an actual human. Like,
that's what, anytime it's like these AI bots and like. If it's not like they don't give you human answers, you know, I'm like, how do I fix this? And they're like, go to this or go to that.
It's just you're going around in circles.
Helping,
So like the site was down, we were losing revenue. Obviously at that time actually we did in-house fulfillment. So we've since, as another outsourcing, like that's been a huge thing for me, is outsourcing fulfillment. So we now have a fulfillment centre. We're 2 years into that, and that's been a game. Like my job genuinely used to be managing the fulfillment on a day-to-day. Like I was a fulfillment manager. Because we were fulfilling in-house in our office in Swords, which is now our kind of head office, and we had a team of maybe 3 or 4 people and doing customer service, order fulfillment. But there is so much that, you know, getting deliveries in, deliveries out. But as we grew, we just couldn't sustain.
No.
And I remember it was kind of Christmas. We just opened Arnott's. We were supposed to be in Arnott's for like a 10-week pop-up, and it was like Black Friday weekend, and I was like in the warehouse, and people had like been out for COVID, and like I was in the warehouse till like 2 a.m. just packing orders. I was like, I will never do this again, like just to deal with the backlog of, you know, we had like 4,000 orders over the weekend.
How long was it gone for?
This was Black. I've jumped around, but this was when I was fulfilling in-house. But sorry, to go back to our website. So our website went down, and we didn't have a website for 3 months. And meanwhile, we were still fulfilling in-house. So there was people there who had, you know, were working with us and were waiting on updates. We were trying to, like, you know, as much as possible, retain their hours, give them other stuff to do. But like, you know, we'd lost 3 months of revenue from the business, while then and having to invest in building another website.
And like that, you literally just said that you were fulfilling one time and you made 4,000 orders in a weekend. 3 months.
So like we lost is like a significant revenue, but then also had to invest in making a brand new website from scratch.
Which is expensive,
which is crazy.
It takes a long time.
We messed around a bit. We went to the wrong platform, like, you know, and these are all the mistakes you make along the way. But we went to a different platform that wasn't Shopify. It couldn't handle the kind of level of trade that we were doing. It got slower. There was multiple issues, and then we had to go back onto Shopify. So we're actually on probably our 4th website now, because of all of the and we really only got our trade back to pre kind of losing the website levels on the 1st of November last year.
Wow.
So it was a real 6-month journey of getting that back to where it should be, and ever since, like, we haven't looked back, and we're back on Shopify now, and it's fine. But like, it was a real journey. And I actually, just while I was talking there, I haven't even talked about the stores really as well. Like,
that's what I was literally going to touch on. Obviously, I feel like that would have given you a bit of a kick start into being like, right, I want to depend more on shops or open more shops. How was that kind of? Well, I think
from the start, I always saw the value in having that e-commerce and retail physical presence. I think with jewellery, people want to shop in store. They want the in-store experience. They want to try things on. But jewellery is so sentimental. Like I always say, you're either gifting yourself or you're gifting someone else. It's kind of, and that's why the customer journey and experience, when someone comes to our counter, you could be 15 minutes talking until the transaction, where, you know, in normal retail, you take it off a hanger and you go and think it's transactional. Where this is a real conversation. It's, you know, the customer has some, you know, always has a story to tell you. So I always wanted to kind of emulate like the kind of the online in store. So when the opportunity came up, so Brown Thomas Arnott's invited us in for a 10-week pop-up at the end of 2022, so from kind of the middle of October to Christmas, and we stayed then. Post that, we were asked to stay just based on the numbers and the success and the demand for the brand. So that's when, you know we were in a temporary fixture. It was all very pop-up style, so, you know, we invested and that was even a rebrand of, you know, making it more permanent, you know, glass fixtures and fittings, elevating the customer experience, and then in I think September 2023 we launched BT2 Blanchardstown, and then we just launched Dundrum in September 2024. So now we've 3 permanent locations, and then during that time we've done pop-ups in Cork, Galway. We've done Cork twice, and we had a pop-up in Planet Beauty in Clarendon Street for Christmas, which is amazing. So building on that retail in that time, we've also brought out services. We do welding, engraving, fingerprints, handwriting, and there's always something new in the store and an experience for customers, which is really nice. So and we're kind of moving towards that more like experience based retail, which is amazing, because people, you know, always say like, oh my god, I went to the store and had such a great time, like had a welding experience, it was so fun, and that's really important, because it's not just shopping, there's more to it.
There's more to it, and I'd actually seen a TikTok about the fingerprint
Yeah.
thing. And I was actually crying. I was like, I want to bring my nanny to do that. It's such a lovely
it's so
concept.
sentimental. And like
Who
that,
came up, it was that yourself that came up with it?
yeah, so like that just kind of like it was so funny, and that wasn't really performing for us. So we brought in fingerprinting because we just loved the idea. It was so sentimental, nobody else was doing it, and we brought that in like really early last year. And
I feel like I've only seen it the past few months. That's so funny.
That came out in like, I'd say maybe this time last year, and we were really pushing it. We were putting on our socials, and it's just funny, like I had kind of given up on it because we were doing maybe 2 or 3 sales a week, like across all 4 locations, like including online. So it was still ticking along nicely. And then the power of social media, so we were like, right, let's really refocus this for Q4 and let's kind of give this the push it needs. So we invited some influencers in with kids, because we were like, this is amazing for moms with kids, and you can merge fingerprints into shapes and stuff. So we invited a couple of influencers with kids in. We invited people in with their grandparents, and it just took off. Like we did a couple of viral TikToks, and then all of a sudden, like we were getting like hordes of people, like all these dads who are dragging in their kids, being like, do the fingerprint, we don't care what on, just put it on anything. Like, but at Christmas, like we could not, I think we were doing 100 fingerprints per day in each location.
Yeah, because like that, you could just get a fingerprint and put it down and like give it to your nanny, your auntie. People love that. It's so sentimental.
But we had queues for because you can physically get the print done. You don't have to bring in a print. We have the machine in store. So like we had queues for the fingerprint. Like it was the number one product. It's still between that and welding our number 1 and 2 products every week since October. So it's incredible how well received it is, and people just love how we get people come in and get like paw prints on it and like dog nose prints. It's so cute.
Oh, I love that. I like that you have it forever. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, and people are like, can I bring my dog in? And we're like, well, we suggest maybe email Brian Thomas about that. But yeah, definitely.
That's so cute. I love that.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give for aspiring entrepreneurs in the jewellery kind of sector? I know you said that you were confused on kind of how to answer this. Is there anything that like you felt like you've overcome, especially with the website and everything? What lessons have you learned? Yeah,
I suppose for my own personal, I can only speak for my own personal journey, and I think the main things that I would say as advice is to just be so, if you're kind of will I, won't I, you have to really, how much do you want it? And like, you have to really, really want this and work really, really hard and believe in your brand. And once you have that sense of brand, to really go for it. And I think there's nothing that will outdo hard work and commitment. But I also think as well, like I said, know your target audience, like know who you're talking to. Because if you're just shouting into the abyss and, you're hoping something sticks, it's probably not going to. Like, you need to know your customer, exactly what they want, what they're looking for, know their price budget, know where other places they shop, their aesthetic, their that how they speak to their friends, so you can incorporate that language onto your website and your socials. It's about knowing your customer, and then obviously delivering a product that's you believe in and that speaks for itself is really, really important. But I think once you have that work ethic and determination, you have a product you believe in, and you have a customer who's there who has a need that you can fill with that product, I think that is a good recipe for success. So once you have those things and you're committed to it, and also that like piece about don't walk before, or don't run before you can walk. Like, this is a journey, and everyone's is different, and it takes different amount of times. So like, don't be disheartened if 4 or 5 months. There was days at the start where like, I remember a couple of days where I had no sales at all. Like, it wasn't this overnight success that it could be painted out to be now. But at the very start, in the first couple of weeks, there was definitely days where I was going, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? Or this isn't worth it, or there's definitely those moments, like 100%. And I think all brands do that. And it's very rare for brands to even be profitable in the first 3 to 5 years, let alone,
because you're putting so much money in buying the actual products. Absolutely. And, putting the marketing out there. But you have to reinvest. Like, you're not, if anyone thinks, oh, this is like a little side hustle and it's a bit of extra cash, or it's a quick way to make money, it's not the business for you, because it's actually it's more of a long-term investment. It doesn't just happen overnight, and you have to be really comfortable with that. Another major lesson for me is like, I am not my business, and I think that's quite a challenge. I still challenge that every day. Like, Lauren and Lynott are 2 separate things, but sometimes, and I had a tendency to
think that they were the same thing. Do you know? So it's really important to have that sense of self. And, you know, if something goes wrong or if a bad day, if the sales aren't good, that doesn't mean you're not good. Do you know? And if the sales are great, doesn't mean you're great. You know, you're separate, and that's really important.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as the weather's bad out and not much people have been shopping today.
Yeah, where I would have been in, like, you know, I'd be like, this is a personal reflection of how hard I'm or I'm not working. And
you're so harsh on yourself.
Like, so hard. And like,
awful.
You know, if something good happens, it's great. But if something terrible happens, then I'm the worst person in the world. So it's learning that there's a degree of separation between yourself and what you do, because you know, there's not many people who are employed by people and have jobs who go around and base, you know, their job,
their office job, and think it's them,
on, you know, their on how great they are, or how not great. You know, it's your self-worth has to be separate, because otherwise it's just like it's a downward. But exactly, if you're going to go around and think your self-worth is your sales that day, or if there's an issue with an employee, that it's a personal reflection of you. It's do you know, your business, you're not your business.
Yeah. And how have you learned to balance your life and your business? Do you have a balance? I feel like a lot of people say no, but what things do you like to do now for yourself, now that you have quite an established business, do you know, to kind of stay focused and stay humble and stay to yourself? That's something I struggle with. I think everyone does.
Everyone, because as I said, I'm obsessed with it. So from the minute I wake up to when I go to sleep, I'm working. I'm on the clock. Like, so I'll always, and I think it's really important, if you can, because of burnout, and it's so real, that you can, even if it's just a day of the week where, like, you know, well, I'll always, I'm giving this advice, but like, I'll always link in with the stores and kind of keep an eye on them, but not actually engage in any physical work, because you have to have that space for creativity or new ideas, or just to process information. Like, I find, like, maybe on a Sunday, I'll make sure the stores are open, I'll check the reads every couple of hours, everything's taken over, but I won't, you know, sit at a desk, or I won't take
calls or anything like that.
Well, I'll always take a call, but I'll try as much as possible to have those days where your brain can think about other things. Because sometimes you can, you know, even in situations, I find, like, I'm like, this is the right thing, and this is the idea, and this is the great, but that's actually the next best idea, the first enemy of the next best idea. Because I've often found, like, you can be so gung-ho on an idea that it doesn't let room in for other...
It overshadows everything else.
Yeah. So it's like giving yourself that headspace, you know, and having hobbies is really important. Like, I have a hobby, I have horses, I show jump, so like that forces me on that Sunday to be like, I'm at a show, and you know,
off. You just have to focus on riding the horse.
Not dying, so like, that's the main thing. So, but like, and I suppose for me, the great thing about horses is that, like, if I don't go, it's 5 or 6 days a week, but if I don't go there, they don't get out. So they're
like having kids, aren't they? Horses?
Yeah, they depend on me. So I have to go there. Where if it was like to the gym, I wouldn't go, because it's for myself. I'd be like, no, sorry, I'm too busy. But like, if I physically have and maybe that's just my way my brain works, if I have an obligation, like, it's like people who have PT or something, if they have to go to that class, they have to go.
That's what I do. I book gym classes instead of going by myself, because I will waltz around for an hour.
I won't even go. I'll sit in the car and be like,
classes are my thing. Like, because like that, someone forces you to do the 45 minutes and then you're done.
Oh no, if I didn't have horses now, I really think I would struggle, because I actually didn't have it before when I started, and I only kind of got back into it because I needed that outlet. So I only got back in about maybe end of 2022, and now it's like it's a whole personality. It's my whole personality. But I think it's really important to have something else that you can switch off. And like, people say, like, you know, with meditation and that kind of thing, well, that's what that is for me, because you can't physically think about anything else. But it's so important to have those things. It's like, some people it's the gym, some people it's yoga. For me, it's horses, but you need that switch off time. But and I suppose I'm terrible for like holidays. Like, I'll always be like, okay, well, I'll just do 9 to 1 on that, and then I'm got thing where I'm trying now to, like, as we get more started, and there's people who can
do that for you.
Exactly. Like now that I have people I can lean on, where at the start it was really challenging when it was just you, but now when I have people I can lean on, I can, you know, take those couple of days.
You're going on an actual holiday.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I intend to maybe this year like really try like a week of, you know, actually you're not physically doing.
Get someone to take your phones or your laptops off you before you go.
I'll go to like a retreat or something, or a no tech retreat. But
the only way it would work, isn't it?
Yeah, but just kind of and then also kind of knowing your times of the year. So like I had this conversation with someone this morning where it's like I'm like, oh my God, I feel like it's Christmas and it's January and I feel like I'm still on the treadmill of the busyness of Christmas. And they're like, you need to pinpoint your go times in the year. Like Q4 for us, we do 50% of our revenue in November and December.
Huge,
so that is go time, and that's, you know, working 24/7 for the full month non-stop. But like January and February, if you can't sustain that full throttle every single month. So you have to pinpoint of like, okay, well I'm working at about 70% in January, February, and then I ramp up for Valentine's Day, and then I come back down and then I ramp back up. But I have to allow myself have that, you know, I only work 8.5 hours instead of 12 in this time. So it's just kind of managing
your little routine kind of how the year goes.
Because you can just like go, oh God, I need to get all these done, and treat, like I'm starting to treat our January projects, like the rebrand, as if it was like the most critical thing in like getting stock into stores and
again, like
exactly. So it's kind of like getting off the like adrenaline of Q4.
I feel like I'd be like that as well, because even with clients and like orders for like lashes and stuff, like December's crazy, and then when I get a bit quieter and go back to kind of just regulars, I'd be like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm actually doing bad,
and you panic.
And I panic, and I'm like, hold on, January's like this for every single business, no matter like who you are or how big you are. Like January's always quieter. And you just have to accept that. Like you learn that that's the routine.
But your body's still in the feeling of November and December. But like I think that the biggest learning that I've had going into next year is like, okay, this business doesn't start until the 1st of February in my mind. Like I'm like, okay, 1st February and that nice lead up till Valentine's Day. If we're in a good place on the 1st of February, I'll be happy, because like you don't get back to the office like the 6th of January. And then by the time everyone's back in and we've all caught up on projects, like, you know, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks and nothing's happening in January. So I don't know why we're all in this like frantic panic and then feeling terrible because the sales aren't there. But why would they be there? Everyone's broke. Like,
it's a horrible cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
How has your vision for Lynott Jewellery evolved since you've started? I know you spoke about a lot of the rebranding. Do you like doing like full rebrands, or is it just slight things or new collections? Like what way are your vision with your rebrands and kind of?
But you know what, like when you're saying from evolve, so at the start, like early days when I was in my bedroom, I always acted like it was a big business. And I think that's a good tip for anyone out there who, you know, might have an Instagram page and they might do kind of a small business. And I see people, and there's nothing wrong with this either, of really kind of being very kind of almost like a person as opposed to a business, kind of putting up like, if anyone wants to order today, they should do it now. Where like I always was like, no, act as if, kind of be the business, you know, dress for the job you want. Like,
you want to be,
so I'd have like automate customer, like our customer service team will get back to you, but it was me. Or like, you know, our fulfillment team.
We're so happy you love your
exactly.
Like,
love Team Lynott. It was me on my own, and my mom helped me. But so like I would always say kind of emulate the brand or the business that you want, and have that standard for yourself. So I've always had incredibly high standards for Lynott, and you know, we don't always get them, which is fair enough. We don't always achieve that, but I've always had that big brand mentality, which I think is really important. And how it's evolved from that is that I'm constantly like getting really inspired by other brands and different things that I've seen, and trying to inject, you know, grow on the journey with our customers. So when they started in 2021, they were 17, and now, you know, they're 4 or 5 years older, they're mid-20s, their tastes have elevated. So I want to elevate and grow with them. So I think like we're always staying true now. We have a kind of a, you know, we have the Lynott logo and we have the colour palette, but now this year is about kind of building on that and branching the colour palette out, and you'll see now, like, we're going to give our stores, our current 3 stores, a bit of a facelift. Our new stores that we'll be launching this year will kind of have more of an evolved aesthetic. Our website and all our touch points as well. We've partnered with some really exciting kind of vendors who are helping us kind of elevate our content now. So in the next couple of months that'll start coming through, and just kind of on a journey of always striving to be a bigger brand and having those like benchmarks and those goals. And I think that's kind of where we're at, and as we get bigger we're getting closer to it, which is exciting.
And it keeps it exciting as well, doesn't it? You know, it keeps you on that ball of wanting to keep doing well.
That's where I love that's where my creativity kind of, like, I love the design, but I love the branding. Brand is like my kind of passion, so that's where I can be creative, and those projects give me the opportunity to like work with different people. Like, I love, even we don't really use we've never actually used external companies like who create the counters for you. Like, I've always just drawn them like on napkins, and now like we've an in-house graphic designer who can like bring that to life. But previously, like, I would have worked with a builder and we would have just literally drawn things on a piece of paper, and then I would have screenshot
hope it
things.
comes out well, like.
And just like, you'd literally just be like, oh god, like I don't know what this is going to look like, and then obviously be like pleasantly surprised. But I'd be like, and I'd like screenshot this fabric but an arrow to where it should look, and instead of getting like a 3D render, which would be the norm, like. And then again, it's cost efficiency as well. It's like just kind of keep costs and knowing what we can do in that budgeted.
Oh, it's great to be able to do that. And what exciting plans do you have for the future of the brand? I'm sure this will be a big year for you. Yeah,
so this is I think this is our biggest year yet, and we've so many different projects. So we're really leaning in on our influencer collaboration model. So obviously we launched that with Charlene. So you're going to see a couple more, so maybe 3 I think we have this year.
That's a lot.
So so they've all been locked in, which is really exciting, and they're all really different, all different age groups. So they'll, in the next couple of weeks, you'll hear about the first one of those, which is super exciting. And then they're kind of pinned throughout the year. We obviously have our rebranding that I spoke about there that's going on. And then we have a couple of other kind of key projects. We also want to kind of reignite our Lynott Content Club. So last year we brought out the Content Club in July, and we have an amazing community of like over 1,000 content clubbers. We've actually hired 3 of them in-house now as like a TikTok exec, a content creative. So it's actually an amazing platform. We used to do events, but we're going to relaunch that and have kind of community events every month, and re-establish kind of the work that we've done there. It's kind of taken a back seat with the busyness of Q4, but now we're in a position to relaunch that, which will be exciting. And then obviously expansion. So we've 2 new stores coming very soon, one in the next couple of months, and then one towards the end of the year. Yeah.
God, that's so much going on.
Yeah.
And a question I actually wanted to ask you kind of at the start was, where did you get the name from?
Oh my God, I was like, you didn't have this on the question.
Yeah, I know. I should have.
It's so funny. So I don't have, like, every single person asks me this.
You don't have an answer?
I do not have I wish I had a really good story to tell you, but like, there's no significant meaning. I just thought it was like really strong on a piece of paper. But I need to make up a really good story. So I was at an awards once, and I'll never forget, like, what's his name? Marty Morrissey was like, now tell the audience, there's about 600 people there. Tell the audience where you got the name. And I started just walking backwards off the stage, and I just walked, like, genuinely, like, my first experience, like, stage fright. I was like, don't have an answer. Would love any suggestions. Welcome. Would love a great story. I wish my second name was Lynott. It's not. I'm just gonna have to make up. I'm gonna be like,
because that's what my brand is, Swan Lashes, and that Swan is my second name.
I know, but I just didn't have a nice, like, McDonald's already taken, so I didn't have a good. I don't have a gorgeous name like Swan.
That's kind of cool though, because it's like you just came up with it, and that was that. Like,
I know, it was just, and you know, that's me in a nutshell. I am the most impulsive person, and I don't, like, I'll make a decision and then be like, oh, I'll think about that later. Yeah, or what's the implications of that?
Team member.
But like, genuinely, I don't even remember the decision making process. Like, honestly,
that looks good.
I think grand, Lynott.
That'll do.
And like, it's so funny. I don't have a good story. I need to make up a really good story so that people are like, wow, that's so sentimental. Intriguing. Like,
oh, that's good. And if anybody would like to shop Lynott or go into any of your stores, where can we find them? Where can we find them online?
You can shop Lynott in Arnott's, BT2 Blanchardstown, Dundrum, Brown Thomas Dundrum, obviously online at LynottJewellery.com, and then in a couple of weeks you will be able to shop Lynott in Brown Thomas in Cork, which is really exciting. So that's our next location. It's our first location outside of Dublin, which is really exciting, and it's our like a really huge demand area for us. Like we've a lot of customers down there who've been asking for years when we're going to be opening there if we could. So it's so exciting to be able to meet them, and we've done 2 pop-ups down there, which were so successful, and everyone's so nice in Cork. They're actually like just the loveliest people.
I grew up going down to Cork.
Did
for,
you?
The summers, like all my life, like, and they're all such lovely
They're
people.
just like we did the best pop-ups in Cork. Like I don't really like being in like I don't know how you got me here today. Like I don't like cameras.
That's what I was only saying to you before. You're not really like in front of the cameras.
No,
you're always behind.
I am not like a face that I don't ever want to be. Like I'm behind the scenes, which is where I want to be.
That,
But in Cork, like I normally run away. Like after I'm like, okay, store launch, and you know I'll be there from 6 a.m. I'll make sure it goes really well. But the minute it in any way dies, like I'm out the door because I'm just like I can't do this. I can't. Where in Cork, I was getting photos with people. I was like, I was over the DJ. I was like, I love Cork. I was like, this is. I think I like this is where I need to be. So so it was really really good. But so excited to open there now in kind of anywhere between kind of April and early May. So yeah, and we're recruiting at the moment for Cork. So yeah,
anybody wants a job.
Exactly.
Hit us Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Lauren. I really appreciate you coming on.
No
and I hope
problem.
you enjoyed.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.